Am I the asshole for reporting my therapist after she disclosed information to my stepmom? I, 20 female, lost my mom in 2018 in a car accident. It was sudden, it was devastating, and I had no one to turn to for support. My dad married my stepmom a year later. I currently live with them preparing for medical school. I have to say I'm not that excited to start because I have a lot of unresolved grief and needed to talk. My stepmom has been trying to insert herself as a replacement for my mom. Mad, it's very obvious. She's controlling and gets involved in every single aspect of my life. It makes me uncomfortable. I told my dad that I'll be seeing a therapist. My stepmom said she'd take care of it. I have been in therapy for 2 months now. However, lately I noticed my stepmom wanting to talk to me about things that I regularly bring up in therapy to my therapist. She'd bluntly ask questions about things I said in therapy. She at some point offered me money to talk to her. I stopped talking to her. But she started brining up my mom during dinner. It's not easy to talk about my mom. It's very stressful and causes me to get emotional. When I asked how she knew, she admitted that the therapist told her. I was shocked. She went on about why I shouldn't hate her and respect her more and get rid of the negativity and just accept and try to adapt to this new normal. I had no response, but I was mad. I yelled at her and told her she had no right to police my words and get involved in personal manners. My dad said I shouldn't yell because my stepmom was just worried about me and wanted to make sure I was making progress in therapy. I left the kitchen. I decided to stop seeing my therapist the next day. I told her about what my stepmom said and told her that I'll be reporting her for breaking confidentiality. My stepmom threw a fit and my dad told me to back down and that I was free to stop going but not cause issues and mess with people's careers and act out like that. I refused to listen to him and he's still telling me to stop it. He ignores how upset I am. Not the asshole. Report her and get as far away from these people as you can. You should be able to talk to your therapist without worrying. Find one who doesn't know her at all. I'm so sorry. Obviously not the asshole. Also, just report her without telling your dad and stepmom. It's not their business. Not the asshole. It's a literal breach of conduct. Your therapist should have thought about the consequences before breaking their rules. Besides, it feels like, given the dad's saying not to do it, maybe this therapist is a friend of your family and giving them .info because of that. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. She broke confidentiality. If she didn't want to lose her job, maybe she should actually respect the regulations. She doesn't deserve to be a therapist, because that can seriously mess up people's lives. It's your duty to report. Not the asshole. It's particularly ridiculous that your father thinks his med school starting daughter is being unreasonable for reporting the therapist for violating basically the same standard you would be required to follow. Not the asshole. You're an adult and your therapist is divulging confidential discussions between the two of you to your stepmother. WTF. That is extremely unprofessional, unethical and wrong. Report the therapist. And find yourself one on your own. If you have insurance, call them up yourself and ask for a list of therapists in your area who take your insurance. Good luck. Not the asshole. But I think you already know that. Patient confidentiality. So here's a pat on the back. The therapist did the wrong thing and also knowingly risked their career over it. Your therapist broke the law. I would be furious too. Find an actual professional who respects the law. NTA. Not the asshole. This is appalling behavior on the part of your therapist. Have I not read this exact post before? I'm not crazy, right? Wording may have been somewhat different but same exact situation. Not the asshole. Report the therapist ASAP. Not the asshole and report the therapist. It's a breach of confidentiality and they should know better. Not the asshole. I am sorry for the sudden loss of your mom. Your therapist violated HIPAA and you are within your rights to report. Your stepmom is overstepping and needs to back off. I hope that you can physically distance yourself from your dad and stepmom in the future and create a situation that is supportive of your mental health. Not the asshole. I've worked as a therapist. It's a massive breach of confidentiality. Even if your stepmom is paying the bill, she is not entitled to know about anything you discuss with your therapist. Even the police would need a court order to get that information. Report her. Not the asshole. Your therapist needs to be formally disciplined for breaking confidentiality. Not the asshole. Report your therapist. And since I haven't seen it said here yet, please try your best to find another therapist you trust. I'm sorry to hear what happened here, but I assure you, There are trustworthy, ethical people out there who can help you. Not the asshole. I'm sorry for your loss. What your therapist did was a massive breach of confidentiality. Not sure why your therapist would risk that. I understand your stepmother wanting a close relationship with you, but she's an asshole for forcing you to do anything while you haven't had enough time to grieve. Not to mention, using the therapist to spy on you. It was supposed to be a safe space for you. Your dad has every right to move on at his own pace. Everyone is different and I don't know how he handles grief, but I am suspicious how he managed to remarry a year later. He's wrong for thinking that the therapist shouldn't face the consequences. Definitely not the asshole. It's nobody's business what you say to a therapist other than yours. If your therapist is disclosing information about a patient to somebody in violation of HIPAA, if you're in the US, then that's a very real problem and they should face professional ramifications. Report them immediately as this is a serious breach of ethics. Also, I'm sorry about your mom and I hope you can find a therapist you can trust to help you, as therapy can be enormously valuable and useful. Not the asshole. What you say in therapy, except for those things they are required to report, should be between you and your therapist. Report the therapist immediately. That definitely needs to be brought to the attention of your state or province's board. Someone like that shouldn't be practicing. Here is how to go about it. You are the asshole. This is a repost. Not the asshole. I'm a therapist. Unless you signed a ROI saying your therapist could talk to your stepmom, this is serious HIPAA violation. Not the asshole. Are you in the US? If so, that therapist broke HIPAA laws. Please report them. Not the asshole. This is a serious breach of professional ethics. Your stepmother is not entitled to this information. Not the asshole. Report your therapist. Unless you signed a document stating that she can disclose information, she broke HIPAA, not to mention your trust in general. With my therapist and psychiatrist, I did sign something stating that if they were concerned about self-harm or one of my actions they can speak with my mother, but otherwise, nothing is to be told to her. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I hope that therapist loses her license as she is a FC King disgrace. Also, your stepmom is crazy and I hope you get away from them soon and you are able to grieve your mother in very healthy and healing ways. Internet hugs. Not the asshole. Breach of confidentiality. If she didn't want to ruin her job, she would have not shared the information. If she did it to you, probably wasn't the first and probably won't be the last if you don't nip it in the bud. Stand your ground, and when you get to medical school, go LC. These people don't respect your feelings and grief, only their view of a happy family. Not the asshole. Serious violation of trust and ethics right there. Not the asshole. That's a serious breach of ethics and causes damage to the entire profession as these stories get out. The therapist knows that and chose to do it anyway. Not the asshole, not even remotely. Therapy is supposed to be a safe place for you to offload and work through your issues. How are you ever supposed to trust this person and process now? There is a reason that these patient confidentiality rules exist, for crying out loud. She fully deserves to be reported and I absolutely implore you to do so, not just for yourself but for all of the other patients too. Also, your stepmom is a massive asshole too. How dare she invade your privacy in this way? You aren't a child, and even if you were, then therapy is still private unless there is a safeguarding concern, and she isn't your mother. Woman needs to butt out. Not the asshole. The therapist broke a core rule of the profession. You absolutely should report them. Not the asshole. The therapist broke the law and your trust. If the therapist did it to you, who knows who else they did it to? Not the asshole. I don't think it's legal for a therapist to share information like that. Not the asshole. Report that therapist. I'm sorry for your loss. Please report to protect others. Not the asshole. This is such a breach of ethics, it must be reported. If therapists can't be trusted, what's the point of them? Not the asshole. You're not messing with people's careers. The therapist messed up her career by making serious confidentiality violations. Not the asshole. Report them. For yourself, but also for that therapist's other patients, who might still be under the impression they're talking to someone ethical. Not the asshole. I am so sorry you're dealing with this. Reporting is there exactly for that. That therapist screwed her own career. Your parents are making everything worse and they need to back down. Not the asshole in any way, shape or form. What your stepmom did is abhorrent and you should cut her out. She was a stranger until 2 years ago and didn't marry your dad until you were already in college. She should not be trying to insert herself into your life, and hiring a therapist that's her FM was so far over the line. I would never speak to her again if I were you, and honestly I would refuse to interact with your dad too until he learns to respect your boundaries and keep her away from you. Not the asshole. Report. Not the asshole. I would say it was generous of your stepmother to pay for your therapy, but it seems she did it to have control of the situation, and just because she paid for it doesn't mean she's entitled to confidential information. She's not the client. Not the asshole. Please, report her. She has broken confidentiality and, by doing that, she has worsened your quality of life in your house. Please, report her so other people don't have to deal with the same or even worse. If she doesn't know how to follow the rules her job has, she doesn't deserve to work in said job. Not the asshole. If it's not something a therapist shouldn't do, then they won't face repercussions for you reporting them. If it's something a therapist shouldn't do, then they shouldn't be practicing. Not the asshole. Report the therapist. She played with her own career by breaking confidentiality, and if she did it with you, chances are she's done it for others. She has proven to be an untrustworthy therapist and deserves whatever happens. She needs to lose her license. It's hard enough to trust a therapist to help you through your trauma, without having to worry if they're going to tell people what you're discussing. Not the asshole. You're an adult. Anything said between you and your therapist is subject to strict privacy rules. There are very few exceptions, mostly related to the possibility of violence, either on you, or by you. The only reason your therapist should be telling anyone else is if you have signed a form to say that they can discuss the content of your session with that person. Therapy can't work unless the patient trusts their therapist. Yours has broken that trust in the worst way. Report them, and find a new one. Not the asshole. Report that therapist. Let's see how chummy they are after the therapist loses their license. Not the asshole. Your therapist knew better. I don't know what she was getting out of this deal she had with your stepmother, but I hope it was worth her career. She did this to herself and she absolutely should be reported. Who else's information is she sharing? Also, your stepmom is a huge asshole and needs to step off. She is not your mother, and trying to force herself into every aspect of your life is disgusting. She's not doing this because she cares so much about you, she's doing it because she's selfish and she wants to feel important. If she cared, she would allow you to grieve and process your relationship with her in your own way. And your dad needs to recognize that they do not get to dictate your relationship or your feelings about your stepmother. Not the asshole. Report that therapist immediately. They violated their oaths and ethics and need to be held accountable. This therapist may also be doing the same thing to other people. Also, your dad is a big asshole here. He is the #1 reason you're dealing with your stepmom's inane behavior. He's the one that needs to be set straight. I'm so sorry for your loss. My mom passed last year and I'm almost 40, I miss her dearly. Sending you virtual hugs. Not the asshole. You need to report the therapist. That is a huge breach of HIPAA.